So great to be able to host this master class today in the multi-million dollar building a multi-million dollar series. And as I thought through the content for this week, I've been traveling, and I'm always looking for inspiration and trying to think through meaningful ways to communicate on the subjects that we have to deal with when we're building a company. And so today, I'm going to bring that to you. I want to deliver two things and a kind of a special bonus feature at the end here. If you stick with me, I'm going to talk about Christmas and leadership in Christians at the end. And if you stick with me, you'll hear some probably hear some interesting insights that you never heard. Now, if you are used to watching me on the YouTube masterclasses, you will notice that typically I have two computers, and on one is my slides, and this one I have the on this iPad here I have the chat going, and then on there I'm just straight up running a YouTube stream. But today is kind of a little bit special. We're making a new implementation, if you would, and that is I am now uh, I'm putting the TikTok live up at the same time because one of my genius team members, who has incredible talent and skill in social media and the broadcasting industry, she said, "Hey, we are already broadcasting on YouTube. Why don't you turn your TikTok lives on and let's do the broadcast on both TikTok and YouTube at the same time. That way, because typically in the past I've been doing the YouTube live, and then after that I've been transitioning off the YouTube live and going into the TikTok. So by the way, I'm going to be looking back and forth. There's a camera right here and a camera. Well, you can't see the camera, but anyways, it's where you are. So if you're watching from YouTube, it's over there. So anyway, so she said, you know what? We need to do two lives. We need to do one on YouTube and we need to do one on TikTok and run them at the same time so that we can get the content flowing both ways. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. Maybe if anything that makes it easier and more efficient, and hopefully to broadcast to more people and help more people out there to do something meaningful, then that's what we'll do. So now we are live on YouTube and we are live on TikTok. So if you want to go interact on TikTok, jump over there. You can see us. My handle is Taika CEO, which my name is Jason Ellinger, and I'm the CEO of Taika Translations, and that's a multi-million dollar company in the language services, interpretation, document translation, graphic design, all the kind of different services that you can imagine in the digital space. And that's what that company does, and that's what we've scaled from a card table in our living room to multi-million dollar status in less than 10 years, because of the hard work, the investment of each of our team members, and the lessons that I teach each and every week, and sometimes daily. Honestly, I go live on TikTok daily, so if you want to see me daily, then jump onto TikTok and follow me there. And then the YouTube master classes, I do them once per week. So anyhow, that's just a little bit about what like the I guess the credentials. I heard one incredible engineer talk about his business one time, and he was talking through, my best credentials for the work that I do is my the clientele that I maintain. And I thought about that after that interaction, and it was really interesting to that if you really think about it, he's like, I can give you my certification, my qualifications. I can give you my degree, my diploma. I can give you the courses that I've taken and the certifications that I have. But what I'm most proud of and what gives me the most joy is the most people that I've been able to help. Sorry, it's saying swipe something on here, so I'm swiping or something. I don't know. Maybe I need to swipe over. Swipe to close. Swipe to close what? I don't know what you're asking me to close. Okay, whatever. So, anyway, so what gives me the most joy, he said, is the the clients that I've been able to serve, but not only the clients that I've been able to serve, the clients that I've been able to maintain over many years. And I thought about that. This guy was about 50 years old, and he built a company, and they were doing about $2 million in revenue that year, and they had been in business for about 9 years. And it was kind of a construction. It was HVAC company in Houston, Texas. And so as I left that meeting, I was like, you know what? That really is, after you've got your credentials, after you've been in business a while, some of the things that you are most proud of and that you can be most grateful for, and that I think give you more leverage in your industry than anything else, are the clients that you serve the longest. And the team members, not only the clients, but the team members who have served with you with those clients the longest. Because when you have long-standing team members, it means a couple of things. It means that number one, you've been able to keep somebody paid for a long period of time, and the second thing you've been able to do is to sorry, boom, is to maintain relationships for a long period of time, and then it means you've also been able to they've served your clients well and helped you keep your clients over a long period of time, and that's incredibly valuable in the world of business. And so that's why on this masterclass today, you're not going to see a bunch of slides. I've got some notes on my computer. I've got some information that I'm going to share with you, but I'm not going to go through a big long slideshow because I think that I think that for this masterclass today, it's more important that we go over the what is required in leadership, what is required in just the concept of leading yourself and leading in all seasons to be able to succeed over time. So just like my friend who he'd gotten into business, had worked for 9 years, and he said, when I go to talk to a new client about the services we provide, and he's the CEO of this company, he said, we come in and I say, all right, so these are the clients that we serve, and these are the ways that we serve them. Does any of that sound like something you might need? And if you want, here's the phone numbers of the people that you can call to talk to about our services, and just ask them straight up, what do you think? And so that's a really important lesson, I think, for so many people out there, because in business, it's not a one and done thing. It's not like I sold you an item and it's done. The business relationship that you have with your clients, if you're not looking at as a long term relationship that you can provide value to them in their life throughout in different situations, and supplement the current product you have with other products that they might need, then you're not leading them through the process of the delivery process well, and you're not growing your business very well and giving it much hope for the future. So as leaders, as a person who's going to lead a company, I want to talk about today what are some of the fundamental characteristics that must be true in you to be able to manage that to be able to lead an organization that's going to flourish over time. Had the opportunity while I was on a 7.5 hour flight to Europe just a couple of days ago. I had the opportunity to watch a really interesting documentary. It's like a documentary, but it's also like a 100-year celebration video. And this company, Delta Airlines, we all know, and some of you hate, some of you love, but anyways, Delta Airlines has been in business for 100 years. If I'm not mistaken, it's this year. It is their 100-year anniversary. And as they've been in business for 100 years, they went through some of the ups and some of the downs, some where they started and kind of how they got there. And they talked about the required elements of success that they've experienced over this time. And again, so I'm a creator. I'm leading my team. I'm creating content each day, trying to working to provide value each day in the marketplace. And when I look around in different environments for inspiration on how to deliver and how to help better explain, and maybe how to better to amplify the message that I'm trying to convey, I really saw a pretty powerful message coming from their team that I just wanted to share on this live. They mentioned that at year 95, like, how many people even do you know that are 95? Maybe a grandfather, maybe great uncle Larry, or maybe somebody you saw on television on that's lived to 103. But there are not very many people that you know that have actually lived to 95, and far less companies that you know that have lived to 95 years old. But they said, year 95 of our operations of our company was the hardest year for our company. And I was like, man, you would think that year 1 through 7 was the hardest, and then they kinda got things rolling, and then business started happening, and they were starting to grow, and they were starting to, revenue started to flow in, and they got all their systems working. They figured out how to deliver to their clients. They figured out how to purchase the airplanes, that they figured out, all the magnificent things that airlines have to do to stay in business, to process people, move baggage and cargo and everything all around the world all day long. And you would think that that first, maybe, okay, maybe not 7 years, but that first, say, 30 years was uh, was the hardest. But the CEO said, we've been in business for 100 years now, but year 95 was the hardest period for our company in its existence. And I think that points to a very powerful acknowledgement that every leader has to make. And that is this: if you're going to lead a company, if you're going to grow a multi-million dollar company, ahead of you is a challenge far greater, requiring far more sacrifice, requiring far more of you intellectually, spiritually, physically. And you are going towards that problem, that challenge, each and every day with a joyful attitude and a hopeful spirit to bring you through it. And you know that in the future, like, things might be great right now, and that's awesome. And in the future, there lies a challenge greater than any of the ones that we've ever been through, and we will prevail through it. And why will we prevail through it? Because of the values that we based our business on from the last 95 years till today. And we will look back on and we will leverage all of that all of this problem solving mechanisms that we have worked through for the past 95 years. And we will bring that to the forefront when we face that challenge, and we will work through it again and again and again until we have prevailed. We will succeed or we will die. Dying is not an option, so we will succeed. That type of resolve is in the hearts and minds of great leaders and great leadership. Because if you're going to have something that stands the test of time, sorry, I'm checking to see if there's any message I need to pop up and answer. Okay, this is all up. It all looks good. But if you're going to succeed over time in and build a multi-million dollar business, then you're going to have to develop this character. And developing that character is not easy. I've um, I've looked back on the challenges that we've faced in the history of our company. It might have been a challenge with production. It might have been a challenge with HR. It might have been a challenge with finance. It might have been a challenge with sales. It might have been a challenge with contracting. It might have been whatever the different challenges are. But each of those challenges in the company have forged a new organization on the other side and forge new team members. It's also purified the company of team members who no longer fit. Maybe at some time they fit, but they are no longer capable of living out the values under the new environment that has happened in the world that you have no control over, and yet they still work through growing and prospering with you. And yet, I'm sorry, and yet they entered into this situation with you in your business. And now, because they are not unwilling to work through that and make the sacrifice which required and demonstrate the values, they must be out of your organization. And this is so often what happens in business. You don't realize that it's going to take far more than you are to work through the next challenge. And so what do you do? Or so first of all, knowing that that challenges will happen is one of the most, I think, helpful leadership and not awareness is what would you call it, one of the most helpful leadership preparations that you can do for yourself. If you're going to lead a multi-million dollar company, you will face challenges you've ever faced before. When you step in front of them, you're going to be asking yourself, man, is this going to crush our company, or is this something that we can also work through? And as a leader, you have to develop that undying ability to step in front of those problems willingly, stare them in the face without becoming anxious, without becoming depressed, without becoming sad, without becoming overwhelmed by the sheer weight and even sometimes terror of the situation that you're facing, and step into the problem, work and roll through it. Now, when in the case of Delta, they went from 100% revenue to 5% revenue within a span of a couple weeks. Now, we all remember COVID started, the government shut down everything. The CEO of Delta says, everything that we did and we stood for, our number one product, without any fault of our own, was snatched from our ability to provide it. The thing that we did, he said, that which was connecting people, making sure that people could move from point A to point B to point C and all the way to Z if they had to, and do it as efficiently and effectively as possible with as few delays, and making sure that loved ones were connected, families were delivered, products were brought forth, and everything was transferred in how it was supposed to be. That was our number one thing. We went from $150 million in sales per day to 9 million. He said, I told my CFO, well, he didn't tell the CFO. He said his CFO was being briefed on this situation from from his staff, and he's like, okay, so we our revenue, our income has gone from 150 million to 9 million, and he's like, man, the CFO was like, how do we drop from 150 to 90 million, 90? And his team looked back to him and he said, no, sir, you incorrectly heard us. We were at 150 million and now we are at 9 million. No zeros behind it. It's 9. And at that point, you take a step back, your heart skips a few beats, and you start to really contemplate whether or not you're going to survive this situation, because they needed that money obviously to survive, to continue operating. So if you move from 150 million down to 9 million, that is a big drop. That is almost insurvivable. However, great leaders were in the right positions and they pivoted, and they had the foresight uh, the professional intelligence to be able to work through the challenges that they were facing because of their history. They've worked through they worked through a bankruptcy about 20 years prior to this. They worked through union situations. They worked through all kinds of different challenges, and that led them to year 95 when the bottom fell out of the company. And of course, there was a lot of because they are such a large organization, $1 billion organization. They started to communicate with the government to ask for for bailout, for funding, and find ways that they could be more creative. And so what it did is it caused them to find ways to be incredibly creative. They increased their cargo transport. They transported vaccines. They transported anything that anybody would pay them to transport. They became a transport company. It showed in some of the videos how they ripped out a bunch of the seats inside of the passenger airplanes that you and I have probably traveled on, and they put cargo inside of those airplanes and started flying cargo. They parked 500 of their Boeing 737s. They just parked them because they had there was nobody needed no need to fly them. A bunch of team members had to go on furlough. And what happened is that over the next year, they would go on and broadcast daily on as many channels as they could about what steps they were working through to to fix their company situation and revert back to profitability. At one point, the CEO talked about how he uh, At one point, the CEO talked about how he said, "All right, we don't know where the bottom is. We don't know if the bottom is no revenue per day, but the bottom is way far away from our top revenue, which is around 150 million at that time. It's probably even more now." And he said, at that point, we didn't know where the bottom was, but we had to start looking to the future. And he said, and this is something that if you've ever read Donald Trump's book, um, he said, when I was in my bankruptcy, he said, I started talking about the future and the future projects. And he said, more than anything, I had to look back, not Trump, but the CEO of Delta. He said, I had to look back into the company and decide, okay, what has made us profitable? What has made us grow? What are the elements of this organization that make it great and it has caused us to stand the test of time, stand 95 years? He said, well, the values that we hold dear, the people that we have, the and then he stopped at the people and he said, but a lot of those great people, they're on furlough. And so he said, my goal, I made it a goal, and I told everyone on the executive staff, I said, our big, hairy, audacious goal is to not have to furlough one more team member, because they had done massive furloughs to that point, and bring them back. And so they started to look at all that depth of staff that they had released back, they'd furloughed for that period, the pilots, the engineers, the airport staff, the red shirts, the check-in staff agents, and all of those things. And we said we have to start bringing these people back and giving them work to do and causing our company to be able to prosper. And I think it was the California, in their California hangars, they opened them up. They became incredibly creative, and they started processing vaccines, and they started giving people vaccines right straight from their the property they owned, and they just made massive inflows of traffic to be able to help people, uh, in different ways. So they were able to help people, not flying them around, but instead giving them, transporting, of course, first of all, transporting all the vaccines, setting up all the mechanics for the processing the people, and then give drive-by vaccines to people as they would work through the system. And this was an incredible and powerful operation. And of course, I'm sure that was subsidized by the government and brought in revenue to keep the company floating. And so it means that they had to do unorthodox things for their organization, things that they're not normally doing for their organization during that time to keep them floating. And I think that manifests kind of what I'm trying to communicate as a leader. And as you look at leadership, and that the fact that something really challenging lies ahead of you and you're going to have to deal with it. With that knowledge, you're going to have to live today with joy, strength, and demonstrate great leadership as you know you're heading towards the next very challenging situation. And that sometimes is too heavy for people because, and if you're unaware of the requirement for that to be a reality in you as a leader, if you're going to be leading a multi-million dollar organization, then you're not fit for that job. And that's why I do these TikToks and videos each day, because I want more people to be able to be fit for those positions and to be able to prosper in their personal lives and your goals, or or for your organization. Because we want everything to be greater, better, brighter, more wonderful, and have a better and more beautiful legacy. But we don't realize that there is going to come a time, maybe at year 95, when you're going to face something, and it's going to happen periodically. You're going to face something that seems like it will take the life of the organization. And drive forwards with hope and persistence and strength anyways. Demonstrate great leadership. Not be angry, not be a pain in the butt to be around, not grow depressed and sad. And so that leads to leading yourself. So we talked about expecting things in the future, expecting those things in the future that are very adverse that are going to happen, And when you encounter those, doing it with an open mind and a creative spirit to be able to give yourself the the wherewithal to leverage the past experience, values, and mechanics of the organization to be able to apply it to the new challenge that you're facing to start working through it. And now what? And leading yourself. So I read a quote recently, and it talked about, and was just basically, it was like, sometimes the greatest gift that you can give yourself is to be able to be in a great mood no matter the circumstances that you're in. Now, people who've watched this channel for any given period of time know that I'm a Bible believing Christian. The Bible has a very similar things to say about that. It says that you should rejoice. It should, in the circumstances that you're going to, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice, and pray without ceasing. Ask God to help you work through the situation that you're facing, knowing that He's never placed you in a place, God has never placed you in a place where that temptation will overcome you completely and completely annihilate your well being. And that's part of having faith in God, having faith in the fact that you're here and you haven't done it all on your own, and He will take you to the next level, and you won't do that on your own either, but you will give your very best to get there. And so being able to be in a great mood, in a great spirit, and continue to be able to charge forwards even in adversity is one of the biggest characteristics that I think all leaders need to develop and bring into their life. And so how do you actually do that? You know, I just kind of want to give you a second to think about that. How do you become more averse, more capable of working through impossible situations? Think about that for a second. And the answer is painful. The way I mean, it almost tugs at my heart a little bit when I talk about this, but the way you work through painful situations and come out victorious is by being in painful situations and coming out victorious. And that is so kind of disheartening. But if you want to be able to be resilient, stand the test of time, and work through the next challenge and prosper exponentially, it requires challenges. Challenges that you think you might not make it through. And so many of us are trying to build a life where there aren't any challenges, where everything is beautiful all the time. But the terrible reality is that is not reality. I just went to the gym today. My gym partner, my gym partner, his nickname is Sunshine, and I just spoke to him 3 weeks ago before I left. Everything was great. Everything's going good. And just before I left the gym, I said, "Hey, Sonny, are you good? Things going good in your life? Like, we did the workout, we were done." And he's like, "Everything's good, but you know what happened? My brother-in-law who I just visited, he just went to Germany to watch their cat for 3 weeks, because in Germany you can't leave your animals alone. You have to have a contracted person to watch your animal while you're gone. So he was in Germany watching their cat while they went on vacation. Him and his brother-in-law and his wife. He said, "But my brother-in-law, he just passed away." And I was like, "What? He just traveled to Asia. Your sister and your brother-in-law just traveled to Asia and were traveling all over the world. And they came back and everything was good. Everybody's in good health. But he goes to the gym one day and he just passes away, doing his workout, and he dies." Our reality is that suffering is evident. It is a part of our life. You can't go around it. You can't go over it. You can't eliminate it. If you live, you will encounter suffering. And we only want the future of our organization, the future of our life to be bigger, better, brighter, and more beautiful. And it will be romantic, and it will be beautiful, and it will be wonderful, but not without suffering along the way. The thing that caused the character, I remember the quote from the CEO from Delta. He said, hard times don't create the best character all the time, but it does reveal the character in the organization or the lack thereof. And I thought, man, that is such a important message that we have to remember if you're going to build anything of magnitude, anything of scale, anything of any kind of type of greatness. The hard times are going to reveal the character in you, and it's going to reveal the good stuff, and it's going to reveal the bad stuff, and it will teach you to become have a more of an ability to creatively utilize your character in your life to cause prosperity or to cause a basically a divorce from that mission that you're on. And so this part of leadership is such an unpleasant subject because there's so much pain involved with it. And I think maybe that's part of the reason that a lot of, that you don't hear leaders talking about it all the time. It's because in the back of their mind, like in the back of my mind right now, I'm thinking about previous team members who I thought were going to excel with our company, and they didn't make it. They couldn't. There was a lack of character. There was a lack of performance. There was a lack of a desire to win, whatever it was. And they encountered adversity, and they divorced basically from the organization, or they got divorced from the organization because they weren't able to live out our values. Or they decided they would not live out our values. Or I'm thinking of a situation where in the past where team members that were just promised that they would do so many different things and cause so many different realities in the organization, and then all of a sudden they just up and quit, and they were gone after years of working together. And you're like, man, through that you still have to prosper. And they held key roles that actually made the organization function well, and then they're gone. And you had the expectation that you weren't going to have to deal with that because you were dealing with all these other problems for a long time because they were living out the values and they were able to handle that work. And now they're gone. And so you never really know in your business and in your life when that next requirement for you to be a powerful and strong leader is going to become evident. You don't ever know that. It might be somebody who you love very dearly and they completely abandoned you. It might be somebody who you love dearly and want them to succeed, but you want them to succeed more than they want to succeed. And you have to either counsel them up or counsel them out, mentor them up or mentor them out. And it's a challenging situation like that. And there's a breaking of the relationship. And you're like, man, and as you lead the people and as you live out the values, for example, one of our values is uh, the golden rule: love each other, like treat each other like you want to be treated. And so you treat everybody with the way you want to be treated, and you try to treat them with genuineness and care and kindness, and invest in their lives and provide wise counsel. And then all of a sudden all of that is just thrown into the wind like it's of no value whatsoever, and that hits you somewhere in the chest really hard. And you take a step back, and sometimes it makes you think about, my gosh, am I even the leader that I thought I was? And am I even having the impact that I wanted to have? And that's not what I got in business for. I got in business to make the future brighter, to make things around me prosper, to see flourishing, and to help people grow. But when you get into it without the wisdom that in order for things to grow, things must often die. The flowers, they wither in the field, they drop their seeds, they die for the winter. And the springtime comes new and abundant growth. Same in the forest with the trees. Something has to die in order for things to beautifully grow in the future. And so when you're not prepared for that, when you don't consider that element of leadership, of life, of growth, then you will be caught off guard by it. And if you allow yourself to be caught off guard by it, it will flatten you like a freight train on a railroad track. And if you, and so you're caught off guard for it by it, you don't realize that that's going to happen. It's happening. And then you're like, well, I didn't get in business for this and I can't prosper through this. Then that's why so many businesses close. Like 95% of the businesses that start this year will probably close before the 5 year mark. I think the statistics are like 90% of those will close before the 12-month mark because they didn't realize that it would require great the overcoming of greater challenges than they've ever faced in their life. And they weren't ready for that. They didn't condition their heart, their mind, and their spirit for that. So adversity gives you the wherewithal to work through new adversity. The previous adversities give you the wherewithal to work through the new adversity with hope and with joy and with the confidence that you can and will ultimately prevail. There's an incredible um, there's an incredible man who lived well, I don't know, maybe he's still alive, but anyways, he was a pilot. He was an admiral, in the highest ranking admiral, who was flying over Vietnam and who was shut down over Vietnam back in the 19 I think in the 1960s. It was in when that war was going on. And he sorry, clicking that. He, when he was shot down, he was taken to a prisoner of war camp, and there was a whole bunch of prisoners there in that camp. And he was tortured countless times, and he stayed in the prison for about 8 years. And just imagine, he didn't know if his family was going to ever see him again. He didn't know if he would make it out of the prison camp. Tortured multiple times. He disfigured his face so that they could not use him as propaganda to the United States, because they were going to film him and film how good of a condition he was in and how good he looked. And he knew that. So he disfigured himself so that they wouldn't be able to do that. And so all kind of terror that he had to face throughout that camp. And afterwards, he did eventually get liberated, and he was brought back to the United States, and many of the soldiers with him. But they asked him, who on your team or who there in the prison camp didn't make it out? And he's like, oh, the answer to that question is easy. They're like, really? It's like, yeah. I mean, I can tell you exactly the type of character of people who won't make it through and who didn't make it out of the camp. He's like, well, who are those? And you and me might think, well, of course, it's the people who are depressed and just completely negative minded. He said the people who didn't make it out were the optimists. What? Optimists? People who go around and think that everyone is good and all things are well, and everyone is all. It's like the world is an altruistic place, and everybody's out. Humans are ultimately good. He's like, yeah, those people, the optimists, they didn't make it. It's like, well, why didn't they make it out? Why didn't they make it out of the prison of war camp? He said, well, the reason they didn't make it out is because they would say, well, by Christmas, we're going to be out of this camp. And he said, Christmas would come and Christmas would go, and they'd still be there. And they said, well, okay, we're not getting out by Christmas, but we're definitely getting out by Easter. He said, Easter would come and Easter would go, and we would still be in the camp. He said, by Thanksgiving of the same year, people would say, we're going to get out by Thanksgiving for sure. And Thanksgiving would come and Thanksgiving would go, and they were still in the camp. And he said, those people, they died of a broken heart. That's what happens to leaders all the freaking time. They get out of business because of this brokenness of heart, because they didn't realize that conditioning was required to be able to man their position, to fill their role. Conditioning and suffering is required to manage and fill your role as a leader. And that's why this masterclass today is a little bit different. It's a little bit more on the touchy-feely side, I guess, because this is part of the requirement of sustained leadership. You will never sustain leadership if you don't learn this critical skill. And that is welcome the suffering. So now, they further asked this admiral. His name is James Bond Stockdale. You can actually look it up on the internet. You can find him if you type in James Bond Stockdale, or I think his real name is like William Stockdale, but they call him James Bond Stockdale. Admiral Williams, or Admiral James Bond Stockdale. Um, I think Bond is his actual last name, which is kind of cool. Anyways, but they asked, okay, well then, who made it out? He's like, well, I made it out. I was like, well, how did you make it out? You were in there for 8 years. People were in there for less time and they died. How did you make it, stay alive for 8 years and make it out? He said, well, the way I made it out is I decided that this experience was going to become one of the most defining moments of my life. And that in the end, no matter the outcome, I will prevail. Even if I die, I will still prevail. And I was like, what? But it gives you a very profound understanding of what a leader of an organization must be. And for that matter, of a team at any level, the growth in this area is required because the reality of our environment is that challenge lies ahead of you. And whether or not you have the wherewithal to withstand it and move through and forward and upwards in spite of it depends on you. It doesn't depend on everything out there. It doesn't depend on the environment that you're in. It doesn't depend on what people do to you or say to you. It depends on what you do when you are placed in front, in when the heat is turned up, when you are in the boiling pot, when you face adversity. What are you going to do? How are you going to pivot? Are you going to creatively think, act, and do? Or are you going to shrivel up, become completely self-consumed and and consumed by your own emotions and not be able to perform? So many leaders, so no, not leaders. So many people fall into that category. And in order to lead an organization that's going to prosper and become a multi-million dollar organization, just like TaikaTranslations.com, my company is today, and the Vision people, you're going to have to work through learning this this mentality of looking forwards into the future, knowing that challenging challenges are coming, and understand that you will prevail in spite of them, not with some kind of ultra optimistic, altruistic ideology, but with the understanding that it will require suffering, challenging on your part, being challenged on your part, personal growth, intellectual growth, spiritual growth, maybe even physical growth. And through that, you will still prevail. And so that's the part of leadership that I really just want to drive home today in this masterclass. That if that is not a reality for you, you will either be forced to learn it or you will be forced out of business. So the CEO of Delta said, our people are our greatest strength because they're our greatest talent, greatest ability to create productivity, sorry, to manifest creativity in all of the work that we do and come up with ideas because our technology can't come up with ideas for us. It can give options based on an input, but it can't sit there and think, you know what? We have 37 clients. I know John, Sally, and Patrick, and I'm going to reach out to them personally. I'm going to go take them to lunch. I'm going to ask them if there's anything that we can do to help them with their logistics. And go do that. Right? Technology can't do that, but people can, and you can too. And so this is how you work through. This is how you start to develop the characteristic, the leadership under characteristic in your life to be able to prosper in spite of the negative and very powerful, painful challenges that you're going to face. Whether it's a liquidity problem, whether it's a sales problem, whether it's a contracting problem, whether it's a team member relationships problem, whether it's um, a processes problem or product problem, or those things are going to be a part of the future of your future. Are you going to be ready and welcome those with the creative and enduring mindset, or are you going to be crushed by them? And so that's part of the leadership side that I wanted to share with you today. I hope that's a meaningful message, because and if you want to hear more about this subject, and if you want me to, I'm going to be talking more about it in the future, but I'm going to transition right now over to the Christmas side of things, because we're right around the corner. We're heading into the Christmas season. And I think that message is really powerful and very, very important for so many out there. So I talked on a live last night about, uh, well, depending on where you are, last night or this morning, I don't know, wherever you are. And I talked on this live about the meaning of Christmas, because well, the meaning of the Christmas tree, the symbolism that it represents when we look at the Christmas tree, or when we decorate the Christmas tree and bring it into our homes. And I'm going to share a little bit about that with you right now, because I have been uh, in the past, I have had a lot of there's been a lot of like back and forth between a lot of people that I know about whether or not they should celebrate Christmas. And and there's a lot of history to Christmas. Obviously, it's like thousands of years, but some of the really important elements, and this is the bonus thing I want to give you at this and this uh, in this live today, is that if you're a Christian out there and you're wondering whether or not I should celebrate Christmas, and maybe you're just interested in why the heck we have Christmas trees in our house and why we do this stuff anyways, I want to kind of give you some foundational information about that, some slightly historical, and just the real reason behind what's going on with the Christmas tree stuff. All right, so I was sitting in my living room yesterday. My children came downstairs, and they were working on the Christmas tree and putting all the decorations on and dancing, jumping around and screaming and hollering and make as much of a mess as they could while they put the decorations on the tree. And they were doing a beautiful job. And then they all finished. And they did a really nice job. I think I've got a picture up on you on the TikTok or on YouTube about it. You can go check it out on my channel if you haven't already. Go see that video, like it, subscribe to the channel, and also like the live if you haven't done so already. I would really appreciate if you would like the live, because that would help us to get out to more people. Anyways, but it was super special, and all the kids jumped around. They put all the decorations on the tree, and then they ran upstairs and going off. Somebody's on a phone, somebody's playing with some toys, somebody's doing something else. And I was sitting down there looking at the tree, and I thought, you know what? Nobody ever told me why in the world that we have the tree here. What does this even mean? And so I have 8 kids. If you didn't know, I have 8 kids. That's why somebody's and that's why my wife just commented in the chat. It's always hectic, but it's super special. Because yes, it's hectic, but it's super special. And so I called them back downstairs. I said, you know what? I need to explain to them why the world we even do this. Like, what is the why do we actually put up a Christmas tree? And if you know anything about Christmas season, if you're a churchgoer, typically they'll have an Advent ceremony each week at church, and it represents, first of all, it represents hope, joy, peace, and then the final one is love. And so as I was thinking about that, and I called the children downstairs, and I said, "Hey, you guys, I want to just help you understand why in the world we just do this. We do this. There's a lot of things that go into this, but the darkest time of the year, the tradition goes, in the darkest corner of the house, in the darkest time of the year, you put the Christmas tree, and then you put lights on it or candles way back when, and then you put decorations on it, and on the very top, you put an angel, or you put the Star of Bethlehem, representing the birth of Jesus." And I said, first of all, the tree is an evergreen tree. What does that mean? It means the love of God is everlasting. It's eternal. It has no end. God's love, the hope, the peace, the joy, and the love that God provides is an eternal one. It's an evergreen tree representing the everlasting excellence of God. Then the lights. The lights are light in the darkest time of the year, in the darkest corner of the house, in tradition, to remind you that in the darkest of times, there's always a very evident beacon of hope. And it's a reminder, the entire tree is a reminder that though things might be dark, maybe you're facing darkness in your life, maybe you're facing a challenge in your life, maybe you're going through stuff. We're all going through stuff at different times. Just like I talked about in leadership, there is always hope beyond the suffering. And if you make it through by living out your values, being creative, productively thinking and acting, on the other side of this situation, you're going to be better for it. It's going to create and forge a better person in you and bring out the best from you. And so, darkest night, brightest light, pointing upwards. It's a cone shape and it points upwards. And on the pinnacle is an angel or the Star of Bethlehem, demonstrating Jesus was born, or remembering the declaration that Jesus was born when the angels came and visited the shepherds and said, "Glory to God in the highest, and on the earth peace, goodwill toward men. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord." And so it points upward to that pinnacle event that happened so many thousands of years ago in the city of Bethlehem. And it's a reminder during this season. We don't leave it up for one day. We put it up and it stays the entire season. Why? Because in those dark moments of our lives, we need to be reminded. We need to be reminded that there's hope, light, and a future, and that it all depends on God. And so, if you're a Christian out there and you've ever struggled with understanding whether or not you should celebrate Christmas, I just want to deliver that message to you that you absolutely should. If you want to, if you don't want to, it's fine. There's no problem. You don't have to. But if you do want to, you should feel a great peace and a great joy and radiance about the entire thing because it all points to God. Now I know there's some passages in the book of Isaiah from the Bible that says, well, they decorated trees and the pagan had pagan ideas and they danced around the trees and they sang praises to the trees. That's not Christmas. Christmas is that in the darkest time of the year, in the darkest moment of your life, drawing those parallels, God rules over all. There is a light and you can work through it. And that coincides with the message today about my message today about leadership and about making sure that as you're working through the challenges of life, that you keep that perspective that in the future there lies something greater and brighter. But for now, it's going to be a little tough. You're going to have to work through the storms. So I hope that was meaningful. And if you've got any questions about that, please either drop them in the TikTok live. I would love to see what I could do to answer the questions, or pass them through to us through the video here, and I would be more than happy to answer those questions for you. So if you have any questions about any of the content that I've talked about today, please drop it in the chat right now. Please like the live and follow us on there. Oops, I got it. Or on YouTube. Sorry, come on. Or on YouTube, or go onto YouTube and leave us a comment in the comment section. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up. And if this has been helpful to you at all, copy the link and send it over to somebody in your life who you know is wanting to build a business, multi-million-dollar business, become a better leader, become a better leader for their family, become a better leader for their organization. If they're working on a team or they're just leading a team, share it with somebody that you know. Copy the link on TikTok, copy the link on YouTube, and send it out to them. I would greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate that. That would mean the world to me, because we're working to grow this channel as big as we can possibly get it and help as many people as we can. And so that's why the content is free. And I post it each and every day. Um, And so I want to make sure that we're broadcasting as the best that we can. So please do that for me if you would. Copy the link, send it to a friend, like this channel, subscribe, and if they are ever wondering who I am, my name is Jason Ellinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations. I own a multi-million dollar company for multi-million dollar net worth, zero debt whatsoever. With 8 children, been married for 16 years, and I share content on business, life, and growing your personal development, and working through some of the hardest challenges that you will ever face, and coming out on the other side better for it, and more wealthy from it. And so some of the biggest challenges that I've faced, in my own personal life, I've gone into them. It's like, man, there's no way that this can turn out well in the end. But I'm going to commit to the values that I have. I'm going to commit to applying myself daily. I'm going to commit to doing everything that I know how to do best, and then I'm going to leave the rest to God. And and every single time after time after time, year after year after year, God has helped us to work through and overcome some of the biggest challenges that we've ever faced. And on the other side of it, come through it stronger, both mentally, physically, and spiritually, wealthier, and more connected to each other, to our team, to our clients, and to those who go with us. So I hope that's the case for you, and I hope that. So, and as a result of these years of working in business, so I've been operating the current company for, we're going on 11 years, and I have that company, and then I have a cattle company that I operate, because we live on a ranch, and we have some land. I built a house in Texas, and I built a house over in Europe, and so I have some land and a property, ranch, in Europe, and I'm working on building the next one in in the U.S. And so you can follow us, and you can learn more about the things that are going on, as we develop our company. One of the biggest things over this past year was that we decided to start broadcasting on social media like crazy, because we understood that we didn't have the presence that we should have, and in order for us to grow to the next level, that we're going to have to do that. So we started to broadcasting. So we have the CEO channel, we have the Taika Translations channel. I even have the Vision People Family channel. You might have seen it pop up on the TikTok if you're on TikTok. A few comments flowing through there, and you can learn more about us, see updates from us, and just kind of go along our journey with us. And I share a lot of those updates online, just to help you understand that we are real people just like you, who started with nothing, became multimillionaires in the process of 10 years, because we committed to a set of activity and values that worked over time. And those are the things that I share every single day, except for Sunday, as long as I'm not traveling. Like, I was traveling just the other day to Europe, so I wasn't able to do that. But now I'm, back at my European house, and we're able to continue broadcasting from here. So I share this stuff each and every day, how to work through some of the biggest challenges that you face. So if you, in business and in life, so if you want to be a part of that, and you know somebody who needs help with that, please like the live. Follow me on YouTube, Instagram, or if you're watching on Facebook, I'm sorry, if you're watching on TikTok, follow me on there as well. Like the live, and I would greatly appreciate that, and we'll continue growing this thing. I started the social media broadcasting basically 1 year ago, and we've seen some incredible growth over that period, and we're looking forward to what it's going to do in the future. So really got a really cool team behind the cameras helping us to stay live. That's Karina and Joel and others, and helping us to continue to keep broadcasting. So we're going to be helping as many people as we can. Now we're going to continue broadcasting for as long as I possibly can. And so if you want to go on that journey with us, then like the lives, and subscribe and follow us. So, and even, I think, more importantly than that, if you love somebody in your life and they need help, and we can help them, then send them our information, and we'll be happy to do that. So thank you very much for jumping on and watching me today, and just kind of listening through some of the very important information on leadership, and the perspective you have to have as a leader to be able to win, prosper, and stay in business over time. And if you're on TikTok, I know this content doesn't stay on the whole time. It doesn't stay saved the whole time. So you can go over to YouTube and you can see this exact. You can see this on YouTube, and just kind of go over some of the maybe pause, go over and write down some of the stuff that I talked about on here. So you're more than welcome to go over there and find this actually posted live. Not live. Well, it was live. It is live when I'm doing it right now, but in the future it will be just, of course, record saved there. So you can go watch that, and hopefully it's an encouragement to you in some way, and it helps you to encourage somebody else. All right, that's what I've got for today. If you've got any questions, drop them for me right now. I'll give you 30 seconds. If you don't ask me a question, I'm gonna jump off the call. So, anything around business, scaling the business, marriage, family, relationships, leading yourself, I'd be happy to help you with any of those. And otherwise, I'm going to be jumping off in now about 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 9, sorry. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.